Right, it's day 10. Day 10 of walking 10,000 steps for 31 days because it's something I've never done. In fact, we're at a record right now. Let's just have a quick look. Steps, month, there we go. So today we've done 3,071 and every single day this month, some days we've done 14,000 yesterday, that's quite an effort. So we're going strong. But yeah, 10,000 steps a day for 31 days because I've never done that in my entire life and I'm ashamed to have never walked anywhere ever. So I've decided I'm going to. It's a funny one today because I was thinking this morning, I got out of bed, my foot's hurting on the left hand side, left foot, and it feels like I've dropped something on the top of my foot. And it just got me thinking, what's your worst fitness or training injury? Because often with these things, people only would know at the time, but there's a lot of people that we just recover from these injuries and we get better. My best one that nobody is probably familiar with is I tore my pec. I tore my pec benching. It was one Tuesday night. Let's get walking, let's do some exercise. It was one Wednesday night. I'd finished work, I went into the gym, I was benching. I think I had, it was a decent amount of weight, but not silly. Depends, it's all subjective. I had two 20s and a 10 on each side, so 50, so 120 kilo bench. I was going for 5 to 8 reps, chipping away at it. Did, I think, one set of like 5, put it back, racked it, sat there, just had a minute or two. Went to do my next set, came down with the weight, did I think 3 reps, and then on the 4th, give it a good push, like you do when you've got a bit of weight on the bar. And it sounded like Velcro snapping. Yeah, it sounded like Velcro tearing. I don't think it literally sounded like Velcro tearing, because I don't think I'd have audibly heard the muscle break. I think I felt that, but in my memory, I heard it. And so the bar didn't get very far. It was only a couple inches above my chest. The bar crashes down, lands on there, and I'm sat there, lying there on the bench. And I was like, this is problematic. So I was like, right, I've got a few options here. I can either wrestle it off, put it down to my hips, and then stand it up, put it on the floor. I had clips on the bar, so I couldn't tip it left or right. Or I could yell. But there weren't many people in the gym, and I didn't feel like embarrassing myself, going, help, I'm stuck under the bar. So I was like, right, option 1, slide it down. That was hard, with a torn pec. It was funny though, because when I did it, I just had this feeling that I'd done it. And I don't know why, I've never tore a muscle in my life, but I just knew. I just knew that was the end of that. So yeah, I wrestled it off, put the bar on the floor, and to this day, it's about the only time I've not put my weights back. I was like, no, do you know what? No, not today. I think I've just torn my muscle off, so I'm going to give it a miss. So unfortunately, for the one time in history, I did leave the bar on the floor, get up, and then I'm like, what do I do now? I might have just torn my muscle off. What's next? I didn't know what to do. I honestly had no idea. I had a protein shake in my locker. So I went in there, sat in the changing rooms. Couldn't really lift this arm up, my left arm. And I was just kind of sat there thinking, I'm like, what's next? And I had a protein shake with some maltodextrin in, so basically sugar. I started feeling sick and queasy and a bit wobbly. So I drank the protein shake. Turns out the sugar and protein, it did fantastic. I felt loads better. So then after that, I'm like, right, I'll ring my brother. Why? I don't know, I just felt like I had to tell someone. So I rang my brother and I'm like, James, I think I've torn my pec. And he was like, right, what do you want me to do? I said, I was like, I don't know. I just have to tell someone. And he was like, do you want me to come get you? I was like, no, I'm in the car. And he was like, all right, can you drive? And I'm like, I don't know. And it was like, well, where would you even drive? Home or A&E? And I'm like, well, I don't need to go to A&E. This is not really an accident or an emergency. Looking back, the stupidest thing I said, that is actually an accident and an emergency. So, very reasonable. So, anyway, I got in the car. The car is a manual gearbox. And in the UK, because we drive on the right, your left hand is for the gears. I didn't have use of a left hand, so had to do that awkward thing where I put my hand on my lap and then I'd use my right hand to steer and then change gear because I couldn't move it. And yeah, that was funny. To be fair, the hospital's only about, it's probably 1 mile away, maybe 2. I'd be shocked if it were 2. It's not even a 10-minute drive, it's just around the corner. So drove around to the hospital. My wife, Lucy, was working. She works at the hospital. And she was working on a night shift of all things. So she was in. It was maybe 6 p.m. She just started. Maybe a bit late, maybe 7. She popped round to A&E and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." Went in. And then you go into A&E and you're trying to tell these people that don't know anything about lifting weights that you think you've tore your muscle. And they don't know how you know, and they don't know. It's really bizarre. Because I'm like, I think I've torn my pec. And the lady at the reception in the triage, she's like, "Oh, how do you know that?" And I was like, I don't know, I just felt it snap and I was benching and I'm semi-familiar with this. I can't really move it across my body the way the pec pulls on the arm. She's like, "Oh, okay, I'll send someone out to see you." So went and sat down and 20 minutes later, somebody comes out. They were like, "Right, could you just start again and tell me what you've done?" Because the other lady didn't really know. I said, "Yeah, I think I've torn my pec," and we did it all again. "How do you know that?" "Well, it doesn't work and I'm in a lot of pain and it's hurting." And she was like, "Oh, okay, I'll get you some pain relief." And I'm thinking, brilliant, this is a step forward. At least we're making some progress. And she comes back with 2 tablets and a cup of water. And I says, "Oh, cool, what is it?" She went, "Oh, it's 1,000 milligrams of paracetamol." And I'm thinking, whoa, that 1,000? I think that's a good dose. Lucy turns to me and went, "No, that's a normal dose. That's 2 paracetamol." It wasn't a super dose. It wasn't anything good. It wasn't, yeah. I was quite disappointed at that. I was like, well, I could have done this myself. I refrained from taking any pain meds in case I got there and they asked or anything contradicts or... So, turns out though, yeah, it hurts, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's not the worst pain ever. I'll be honest, it's not that bad. There's been times where, I don't know, like I've fallen and twisted an ankle or done other things that have been much worse pain-wise. I'll be honest, on the pain scale, not a big deal, not a big deal. Terrible for recovery and a challenge. Anyway, from when I did that, they eventually... Oh, this is good. So I was sat in A&E and I was sat on a thing, and it turns out the final boss was coming to see me. This is the surgeon referrer man. And I'm sat there with no shirt on, looking sad. And this chap walks in and he looks at me and he goes, "Ooh, a bodybuilder." And I was like, yes, the first time in history anybody's ever noticed, apart from me. So I was like, oh, that's a win. So I've stuck with that. I'm like, yep, at least one person thinks I go to the gym, so that's cool. So yeah, anyway, they booked me in for an operation, sent me home. 4 weeks later, so at that point I think I had 4 weeks off work because I couldn't pick anything up with my left hand, and I worked in engineering, so I had to move things all the time. So I had 4 weeks off work, and then I went back to work doing lighter things to not pick things up and put too much stress on it. And to be honest, at that point, everything had settled down enough to where it was okay. And that was at a point where I went to meet the surgeon that was doing the operation, and he was like, "Look, there's 2 ways we can do this. We can either go in, open it up, sew it back together and fix it, or if you're not bothered, we can just leave it." And for the first time I was like, oh, you know, if you weren't a gym goer and you didn't need strength in your chest, you could just leave it. I could pick things up, I could move around, I had no mobility issues. Everything was all right at that point. So, hello, our little friends come to see us. Hi, hello, you just come for a stroke while you're passing. There you go. Right, off you go. There you go. So at that point, it was like, look, you don't have to get it fixed, but you can if you want. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely need this fixing. I could really do with not even use of my arm and chest, but like bench press and chest training, and this is a big part of my life. I need this fixing. So I was like, okay. So we got booked in. I think it was 4 weeks later I got booked in for the op. Went in, did it. I think it took about 4 hours, which surprised me when I was afterwards. I was like, wow, 4 hours of cutting and sewing and stitching. And the surgeon came out afterwards and spoke to me and said it was like sewing a piece of leather to a piece of steak. I'm like, yeah, that's hardcore. So yeah, not ideal. And now I've got a lovely scar to show for it. You might be able to just see. Oh, it's a right mess. It looks like a shark bite. At first, when they did it, they didn't stitch the wound back together. They glued it, and turns out that were a terrible idea because it just opened up over time. I think part of that as well. Part of it was because it weren't held together right. So over the space of like 3 to 6 weeks, it just slowly gapped open. And then part of that is in the last few years, I've probably just built a bit more muscle, and you know, like when people get tattoos and they stretch through gaining weight or things like that. So yeah, but now I have since benched 120. I've benched what I previously have. The only thing is now I'm stuck. This might sound like ridiculous logic. I know, I'm more than aware. I don't know if that pec is now stronger or weaker. Is it upgraded? Have they reinforced it? Is there something in there? Is there some sort of mesh fibre? Or is that a stronger pec? Or is that a weaker pec? I don't know. I've always took it as that's a weaker pec, so always been concerned. And I just think, if I were to tear that torn pec again, I'd be in a mess. That'd be bad. That'd be really bad. Because as well, the surgeon said when he had to sew it back together, they had to cut off a bit of the pec where it was damaged. So he said, and a bit off the tendon. So he said the whole joint will be shorter. So he said your range of motion will suffer. Anyway, I went to physio for 6 months after that, and now I've got full range of motion. I can bench. I can contract the muscle perfectly. Like I say, I'm still scared to break it again, but no, we've healed really well. It took about 9 months after the surgery to do any training on my chest. The doctor said, or the surgeon said, don't do any training for a few months and you can phase back in. So I started going back to the gym, doing a bit of legs for a month or two with literally no stress upper body. And then a few months later, I'd go and do some light abs and a bit of arms. And then I'd phase back into side raises, and then eventually back to like chest press and things like that. But yeah, no, that really, you just normal one day, you just living your life, you know, and then you go to do something you do all the time and just tear a muscle off a tendon. You just don't expect it. You know, you see people like Eddie Hall doing it, and I'm like, yeah, but you must be moving some serious weight. No, it turns out, I think the cause of it was probably dehydration is my best bet. Given that I was at work that day, I couldn't tell you why. Even at the time, I had no idea why. Not a clue. But I think looking back, the only plausible, logical thing could be dehydration. I weren't overtrained. I weren't training tired. I weren't training sore. It's not like I was training chest every night. There were no other factors like that. It was just a normal session. So yeah, I'm blaming dehydration, which goes full circle to me. So I think that's why I put so much effort and emphasis in hydration these days, with electrolytes and supplements, and trying to just get water in all the time, because I feel like to be a bit overly hydrated, all it costs you is going to the toilet a bit more frequently. Some people would argue that, if you drink too much water, then you lose all your electrolytes. And yeah, okay, that's fine. That's the same problem as like taking too many vitamins. There's more people that don't take enough vitamins and don't drink enough water. So I'd rather drink half a litre too much than not enough. So, but yeah, lesson learned. Don't tear your pecs. Be hydrated. Stretch. Warm up. Because all is well until it's not, and you don't know it's going to happen until it does. Then you think, shit. So yeah, other than that, no real injuries, to be honest. I've done shoulders, but only like rotator cuff stuff. I'm really quite sensible when it comes to training. I'm a big believer of there's good pain and bad pain. I don't push through bad pain. If a joint aches or tendons are feeling weird, or yeah, there's something that's problematic, I don't play games with bad pain. Good pain, like a pump and a burn and fatigue, yeah, go mad. But anything that's jointy or niggly or feels like this could be problematic for another time, not my cup of tea. So I don't mess with that. But yeah, no, I've not really had anything else. Genuinely, no, I'm pretty good at not being injured, apart from tearing my pec. So that's my tearing my pec story. That's a bit of a brief summary. And yeah, if you guys have done anything else to injure yourself, to be hurt, to be out of action for a while, let me know, because I'm curious. It's not something that comes up in conversation a lot, like, how have you hurt yourself? But today I was like, yeah, I am curious. So, I mean, I hope that there's... ideally, there'd be no comments and everyone's remaining injury-free. That'd be my goal. But that's not how life works. So, let me know. And I have currently done, well, shall we say, no walking. I've done 3,300 steps. So, I'm going to crack on and, yeah, get at it. Right, I'll catch up with you guys in a bit. Right, came back, went to edit the video, mistakes were made. I don't know if the mic died or it weren't connected, something went wrong. Anyway, steps complete. We did 11,249, and that's a wrap. Nothing too exciting. And yeah, apologies about that. Feel like a right tit. Never mind.